All right, welcome back, and thank you, Whitney, for joining us today.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the funky junk.
Yay.
I've been looking forward to this conversation for a long time.
Yeah, me too. It's exciting to talk about.
This is 10 years. This one that's coming out in 8 days,
Yes.
as we're recording this in 8 days, it's their
Yes.
10th year. It's just full of vendors and artisans, and it's just a big event, and it's an important event for our community. Did you ever think it was going to get this big or last this long?
Um, I don't even think I thought about that in the beginning.
Right.
You just want to do this thing. And I knew when I was in my original location, like, I'm building this. This is something I want to do. But I was waiting until I moved into my shop that I moved into then. Um, I had friends that did these that were creatives, and I had friends that were in bands. And I was like, we're making this festival. Like, we're just doing this. So
Mhm.
um, I'm beyond blown away at how big it actually I don't think I thought it was gonna last 10 years. I mean, it really wasn't something I thought about, but the fact that we're here and outgrowing our space, and
Mhm.
it's been pretty cool to kind of replan and organize
For
this
sure.
growth.
I mean, people look at it as an event, as a cultural happening. It's definitely a place for vendors and things like that. But what we're going to focus on a lot, not all
Mhm.
of it, but is the fact that there is a business model here. It is a
Mhm.
business.
Yeah.
It has a business structure to it,
Mhm.
and so I was just wondering at the very beginning. Did you ever ask yourself why you're doing this? Is this meeting a need that was missing in Wyoming culture? Is what's the why?
I think my why originally started. There was a small group of us that would get together. Stacy Pullen is also a local business owner in town and a creative who's passionate about many projects. And she had invited me out after I had been doing jewelry at farmers markets and things like that, before I had ever even dreamt about opening a store, just as a hobby that started to kind of just take pace to do more. So a group of us actually would gather at her house, and she had a garage that she turned into this beautiful like boutique for a weekend. And we did that a couple of times a year for a couple of years. And then she ended up kind of finding new passions and moving forward in different ways. And so the basis of that had kind of already been set with things that I really like to do. And it was just a really great curated group of women creators. And so a couple of those had, when I decided I wanted to do this, reached out to see if they wanted to come and participate. And so it was really just kind of trying to find that home between a craft fair and like a fine arts market, right? So Nick Fest to me was always like fine arts, and they had beautiful. I mean, they still do. They have beautiful art and people that come and sell things there, but that's not like the people that like I knew that were kind of building and making things and trying to find that home. And then you have your craft fair, and that's not really where we lean towards too. And there's a kind of a place for everyone and a market for everyone. But I just had this idea that we needed to just build music, invite people to come hang out and enjoy the things that we do, and hopefully help some friends make some money. So
That's cool.
yeah.
That's cool. So it's definitely it's a hybrid between a lot of different things, the
Hmm.
artistic world and the craft world, and it's
Yeah.
unique to what
Yeah.
you created. So that's awesome. Um, can you take us back to the very beginning? Because a lot of people as this thing has grown, naturally grown, they've known Funky Junk, and they say, "Oh, it's been around for 3 4 years now, or it's been around for 5 years," and they don't realize it's a decade. You've been doing this for
10 years.
years. So a lot of people don't realize that. So what did it look like 10 years ago? How
Oh,
different was it?
10 years ago. So it kind of started. So my shop was located at 6th and Durban in an old house built in like 1910. And it's right by my home, just a great little spot. Our Savior's Lutheran Church is right next to us, and they had the parking lot right there connected to my property. And I thought, wow, this is a cool spot. Maybe we can build this here. So the very first year, I had 8 vendors. We had it's kind of before food trucks. So we had La Casina came and set up with their catering little food trailer, and then I had to pay a bar to be there. And my friends from Easy Side, aka back in the day, Season Stems. I don't even remember which name they were at that point, but
Right.
good friends of ours. And we said, hey, come play this. So everything was in the parking lot. There was space for way more than was happening. And then the second year, so we started in September of that year. So September will be like the full blown like 10 year, but
Right.
we're just going big all year long. So,
Awesome.
the next year I think I had 22 vendors.
All right.
Just kind of word of mouth and stuff had kind of happened, and people knew friends that were also creating. And so we just kind of tried to like, let this whole thing organically grow. I never really like pushed to look for people or advertise. So it's been this very organic growth, which I think is why it does so well.
Yes.
Um, we took over the parking lot, and then pretty soon I was like, well, it looks like we have to figure out how to close streets, and we have to figure out how to,
Right.
find the right people to come. And yeah, so it started with 8 to 10, and this year we have 121 vendors, small businesses. So
Wow.
that includes like Backwards Distillery, who always comes. That includes the 11 food trucks that will be there. And then, yeah, like 109 creative vendors.
So from 10 to 110 vendors. That's a huge jump.
It's wild.
So it's I think anything that's organic is definitely more sustainable than when you throw money into it and hope that it works. As if it seems like you're always solving problems throughout those 10 years. You're trying to figure out how to shut down roads, how to find a bigger space. Did you find that to be the case, that you're always trying to solve problems?
Yeah, and I think you just kind of have to roll with some of the changes. Like in the beginning, it was so easy to borrow traffic cones from the city, and that was like easy peasy. And the rental of to close the street was great. And as soon as you thought you had it all figured out, like they changed things. And then pretty soon you couldn't borrow cones from the city anymore. So then you're looking at like, okay, well, now where do I go? Or can we shut down more than one street? What neighbors is this going to affect? Finding the right people, the right permitting. So it's like once you actually felt like I thought, oh man, we've got this down pat, it would change.
Yeah.
And so you've just got to really kind of roll with that and be open to being flexible. And luckily we have great relationships in our neighborhood that allowed us to kind of like let this event happen, because we take over, now, I mean, at that point last year, all the way from 5th to 7th on Durban was closed, and then we take a block in, and Our Savior's Lutheran Church has been fabulous about being a partner. Rustic Cottage was really great about us, like shutting down the road to their business. And
Right.
I know they're probably a little sad this year to see us have moved, but they were wonderful. And I hope people still go support the businesses that are over there. Neighbor Fred, who opens his garage doors and sells all his vintage wares, I'm sure we'll still be selling stuff that day. So hopefully people still wander back over to the old neighborhood.
Go check out Fred.
Yeah.
So
See Fred.
Yep. So solving problems is actually not a bad thing
No.
when you're growing a business.
I think it keeps things fresh. It keeps you moving, and it keeps your brain thinking. So I think you've got to, if it stayed where it was, like I'd still probably have 8 vendors in a parking lot. And so being able to grow and change with that and problem solve those things, I think has just been a really good thing. Bad problems to have, I guess. Good problems to have.
No, I think that there's normal challenges in businesses, and I think that we always have to be adapting and changing and rolling with the punches sometimes too. And I do believe that organic is the best way to grow. That's just my personal belief is for sustainable growth. If you want, quick growth, throw some money in it and see what happens. And sometimes it works, but organic, I think that's when we see people. I know that there's a lot of people on Facebook, for example, that have just grown their following slowly and gradually. I think of Tammy. It's all organic, and I love that about what she does. It's all just natural, and I think that's the best way to see business lasts for 5 or 10 or 20 years.
Yeah, being authentic and being like just true to yourself and kind of what you do. I mean, yeah, like Tammy is a great example. I mean, she's just puts herself out there, and she's exactly who she is in person as she is 100%. Online, and just good people.
And that's a sign of, like, I didn't even give her last name, but you knew who I was talking
exactly
about. Everybody knows Tammy.
Yeah, this is Tammy. She
awesome.
takes the selfies from up top. She's smart.
She's very smart. She knows.
Yeah. I think one of the other great things about Funky Junk and the way it kind of has grown is like I've kept my vendor fee like very reasonable, and it hasn't changed much from the beginning. I tried to make very slow growth increments with that, and still, because I want everyone that's there to do well and to make money and not come waste a day, but to leave very inspired. And so keeping, I think, that at a level where it felt good for everybody. I mean, I didn't build it to make money. I built it to like help showcase all these other businesses and creators and give people that opportunity to do it in one spot. I do finally make a little bit of money for my time, which is great because I spend a lot of time and effort making this thing happen and putting people together and really making sure it flows smooth. So
absolutely.
But nothing makes me feel better than when a vendor's like, I had the best sales I've ever had today. And then at the next event saying, I had the best sales I've ever had today.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's a distinction as well, is we can do good in business and be there to help other people grow too. And I think that our growth is very dependent on other people's growth as well.
Absolutely.
It's not about us and a one-man show.
Yeah, and it's not a competition of things. It's like a collaboration and a community. And I think the funky junk vendors, I think if you ask, most of them will tell you that this is like we're a family.
Mhm.
And we really do. Like I've watched some of these vendors like go on to collaborate together. Some of them have opened a brick and mortar store and now carry like one of the other vendors like products in there. So we really are like a community, and it's not like I want everyone to do well. It's not a competition of who's doing better, who makes more, but
Right.
like being able to help so many small businesses and people that rely on this money for whether it's like, kids dance lessons
Right.
and grocery money or daycare. I mean, it's, a lot of the people that do these things have full-time jobs on top of it, and you can tell where their passions lie. And so for some of them to take that passion and be actually able to open like their own business has been
Mhm.
really cool to watch.
Absolutely. And that's a small business. Small businesses are supporting their families, they're supporting their kids' education or band lessons. That's
Mhm.
definitely the business model that's behind Funky Junk. And speaking of Funky Junk, the name,
Mhm.
let's talk about that. Is what's the genesis? It's definitely catchy and memorable, but where does it come from?
I think, I try to look back and think where like that really originated because we threw around a lot of ideas, especially as when I opened my shop in the Walcott Galleria in 2014, it was called Petunias. And people I think thought we had a flower store, which makes complete sense. But my dad always called my daughter Petunia. Her name is Peyton, and it just from a like early age, that's kind of where it landed. So that became like the name of my jewelry brand at that point. And then as we moved and changed, I mean, I knew that wasn't the name of this event. So we threw around a lot of stuff. But really how it originated was a lot of vendors at 10 years ago were doing vintage and resale of things like that, repurposing, recycling, um, utilizing sources that were not the norm. And so it was really like this collection of that. Like, how do I describe all of that in 2 words? And so funky junk it
Funky Junk.
became.
It became. And so it's been Funky Junk from the very beginning,
Yep, that has stayed the same the entire time.
10 years. That's why it's obviously so memorable
Yeah.
because it's
It's
part
time
of
for funky junk. Yeah.
um, every business has to go through hurdles. At the at the very beginning, you probably had some big ones. What's the biggest hurdle that you went through in the first couple years?
Wow. Biggest hurdle times a couple. And, you know, I think in the very beginning, the hurdles were just creating this event with a space that was everything was just kind of unknown, I guess. So learning what we had to do, learning that we had to contact the city for specific permitting and just kind of stepping into something that was unknown and then getting people there to support it, like getting people down to the area. And that's why I think, those first ones were small but mighty because there were people that showed up. So I think being able to just like learn how to get yourself out there in the marketing piece when that's like, when you start a business, that's not the reason you start the business. You start the business because you're creative and passionate about what you're doing. And then it's like, oh crap, I have to be the accountant. I have to be marketing. I have to be this. So I think just being able to like wear all the hats and like try to do that well enough that you knew
Mhm.
you were going to make it.
Right.
So I think that was like probably the biggest one in the beginning was really just like learning all the logistics of what it took to put it together
Right.
and doing it kind of as it was already happening and not like this big pre-built business plan
Right.
before the event. Like,
Right.
okay, these are all the pieces I need. You don't sometimes know until you get into it. So
So it was an idea that turned into a business, and so all those hats you had to figure out how to. Did you ever pay for marketing?
no, we actually that's kind of the thing. And and sometimes I wonder if that was a mistake to not at some point, but it didn't seem to matter. So I
Mhm.
mean, we did a little bit of Facebook paid advertising a couple of times. I mean, I hang posters and those I don't even think that stuff's is it's just not as important anymore for this event.
Right.
Do I feel like I probably could and we could expand even more? Yeah. But I think that the growth that it's found, like you're right, like it's been 10 years and some people still don't even know it exists
Right.
in town, which kind of cracks me up. Because it's been just like this like secret little nook of a hidden thing, but like not hidden enough that thousands of people don't come wander through. So
Right.
it's exciting to me when someone doesn't know about it and they come experience their first one.
Yeah, you definitely can't hide it anymore.
No, it's
You're
out
on
there. It's
David
out
Street
there.
Station this year,
Yeah.
and it's a 10-year has. I think marketing can be a double-edged sword because I think that either it doesn't work and so you waste your money because that happens a lot in marketing. It's a hit or miss, or it does work and it grows too fast.
Yeah.
And I think if, especially when you're starting out in this business, it's like you don't want to grow too fast because as you grow, you're increasing your complications and the problems you have to solve. So it's just, or again, organic I think is easier to manage.
Yeah. And the growth this year has been kind of wild because of the change of location. That definitely, I wasn't sure if I wanted to add any new vendors or do anything really different other than what we'd kind of been doing, but just the change of location first. But as soon as we started mapping out the area, I was like, gosh, we can really do some big things. So like we're closing down an additional street than I think they've ever really closed down at David Street for much. And that's because we have great neighbors as well. Like Kelly at the Wyoming Plant Company is he's fantastic. And, we want every business down there to participate in this event with us where we're kind of closing access to their business. Hopefully we're bringing them thousands of new customers that didn't even know they existed.
Right.
So it's really great that we're able to use that opportunity and that space in a great way, I think, and really try to figure out the logistics of setup. Setup's always the hard part. I always want to make sure people can get in and out smoothly because it really sets the tone for the day. So there's been a lot of logistics and planning in that, and it's going to look really great.
Thanks for watching today. These podcasts are powered by Payrock, and Payrock is a payment solutions provider. We work with any size business or nonprofit, improving those payment acceptance efficiencies while reducing those overall costs. You can get a hold of me through any one of those social media channels, or you can give me a call. Let's get back to that podcast. Was there a specific moment where you knew you had to adapt your model and change it? And if you didn't significantly change your model, I think when we spoke a few weeks back, you talked about, vendors and charging vendors, or was there something specific, you had to change?
Yeah, I think that we knew if we wanted this event to grow and we wanted to be able to add more music and realizing that, wow, now we have to add porta potties, now we have to add garbage cans, now we have to pay someone to do these pieces, that had to grow and change. So also kind of keeping that criteria. I think the hardest part with some of these things is like really trying to appreciate the people who apply that maybe aren't the right fit for the event, but that I think are doing a great thing in our community.
Mhm.
And that's where finding that line between, the craft fair and the fine arts markets and finding that home and really staying true to that criteria. So I think the criteria changed a little bit, through the years, but we've always tried to stick very truly to that piece. Um, and I think that's really helped kind of keep us going where we're going and make this like what it is.
How do you keep it fresh? Because 10 years is a long time. Is it that vendor selection? Is it the art, the music?
A little of both. And this year, I think because we're going where we're going and being able to have that stage at David Street Station is huge. So music is hopefully going to overtake as a bigger piece of that as we grow. I would like to add, we've had some out of state people come and play, but the budget for music hasn't ever been like super large, right? Because we are trying to keep vendor fees and all those things at a reasonable price so everyone makes money. So I think having the access to that stage versus a 10 by 10 tent in my alley that bands have always been happy to play under, like there's never been any complaints. Like I think what we get to offer them is really fabulous. So the music piece I know is highly important is what we're trying to grow. And so we will be looking for sponsorship come September so that we can hopefully beef that piece up without it costing our vendors a whole lot more to participate and be there that day.
Got it.
So that I think has been part of that growth. And I just think the quality of vendors that we're finding that are coming from around the state, and even I know we've got someone coming from South Dakota this year, and they're hearing about it from other events that they go to or friends that they have that are doing these things. And they tell them like, this is just really good vibes. Like this is a great event to be a part of. And so that's been really cool to hear as we've been able to do that. So adding, like just really high quality like vendors is definitely part of that. So I'm super excited about some of the new people we have coming for this one in 8 days.
No stress.
No stress. So lots of great, people that take pride not only in their product, but their booth and their setup.
Mhm.
Like I really want it to be an experience for everyone that comes. And almost like they're stepping into 100 boutiques,
Mhm.
Throughout the space. So we have a really cool photo op happening with really cute Vita bus. My friend Sarah's got a really great bus. That'll be our photo. And then Aquil is he's got a 360
Mhm.
camera set up. So he's going to set that up right smack dab in the middle of where the splash pad is. And so we're going to have some really cool new things. Our artists get to have the overlook. So musicians will get to go up and kind of hang out in a space that not everybody always gets to use. That'll be really fun.
Mhm.
So yeah, we kind of just, I think, are going big in a lot of ways, but not overly big at one time.
Right.
Keep that organic growth, right?
Exactly. So 10 years. So there's obviously a new location. You're at your David Street station,
Yeah.
which is huge. Is there anything else? I mean, you just mentioned a bunch of new things, but is there something that sticks out as this is something very new that you're doing this year?
Um, I think adding Patty Fiasco and going big with a little bit bigger music is great. Those guys have become lifelong friends of ours, and so getting them the whole band to come here is pretty fantastic. I think we're trying to be mindful of the growth this first time with the change of location, just because there are so many new logistics.
Mhm.
Um, but by adding 25 vendors, I think that's probably like, so we grew in size. And so trying to keep that small but intimate and keep all of our vendors real close to the station itself and to the music. Um, that's probably kind of where our focus has been, just so that we don't lose that vibe. I think
Right.
that's like the concern. I think the one sad part is that we can't have dogs at David Street Station, and that has been like my one con to moving this event.
Right.
Um, Luckily, some of the other additions I think are the support that we will be able to give to the surrounding businesses. So, like Wyomade's going to they're a brand new to downtown shop right across from David Street Station. Super excited to be there, and she's like, "Can I bring the cornhole boards out?" And I'm like, "Yes, please." So, like, hopefully, there's just going to be activities and
Cool.
things like that whole space to keep people happy.
That's great.
Lots more seating for people to enjoy the music and spend the day.
In 10 years, has your definition of success ever changed? I mean, what is success for you today? What does that look like for Funky
Um,
Junk?
I think the success for me in this event has always been the success of others. And like I said, I did it in the beginning just out of pure passion and wanting to gather people to come do this. So I think for me, the success of it is like for like vendors to really do well that day, for our community to come out and enjoy the day and leave just feeling with their heart full. Whether they buy something or meet a new vendor that maybe they want to partner with in something, just come enjoy the music. I love when the husbands come, camp out, grab a beer, listen to music, and the ladies will go shop. Or I have a friend who happened to come up in our conversation when we were having coffee. She's going to be at Beyonce in Chicago, and is sad that she's having FOMO about Funky Junk because they know the quality of what they're going to find there. So I think that's that success, like knowing that we have a community who wants to come and looks forward to it, to come see what's being
Right.
offered, and then for all those vendors to just literally have the best day.
Right. I think if you're in competition with Beyonce and people are regretting not being here, I think you've hit a
I
milestone.
think it's a good one. I was like, that's a keeper. I don't think we could have planned that.
Right.
I felt like I planted her, and I paid her to be there that day. So we visited again the other day, and she's like, I'm still having FOMO. Or I
Right.
have a
Mhm.
friend that I worked with at Kelly Walsh that has a group of friends that have a group message going about this event.
Mhm.
And she's going to be in Jackson for soccer with her daughter, which is not a bad place to be either, right? It's Jackson. And she said, I told my friends to take me out of their group message because I just don't want to hear it.
Oh
I'm
man.
going to miss it. So
Right.
I think that's my success. The fact that
Yeah.
people really look forward to it. Um, you know, the community as well as the vendors,
Yeah.
like people look forward to coming out. And it's kind of, I think we hit that sweet spot with our planning of time. So it's
Mhm.
kind of that like first, hopefully nice weekend. You never know. I mean, May's been interesting in weather. That Wyoming weather will get you. We've had it snow. We've had rain, sun, and snow in the same day.
Right.
We've had all the markings on the street get washed away and set up vendors as they show up with, it's Wyoming. So,
Wyoming.
but people still show up, and that's the coolest thing about it. Like they might have their hot chocolate and their gloves on in the morning and tank tops in the afternoon, but vendors come and they're diehard to be there, and so are the people that come to enjoy the day.
So for someone that's never been, if that's a thing,
It's a
if that's
thing.
a thing, if they've never been, what is the quintessential, expression of Funky Junk? What's your pitch? I mean, like, what is Funky Junk to you?
Gosh, I just think it's a day full of good vibes and really great people. So I hope people come down, grab a beer or backwards does the funkiest of junk cocktail, which is a really great one.
Cool.
Like listens to some music, checks out a band, one maybe they've either never heard before, or maybe it's one of their favorites, and hopefully find something just really good at one of the many stops that they can make that day. I think there really is something for everyone, whether you're there with no money and you just want to come enjoy the day and not shop, or if you come with a pocket full of walking money to take something new home. I just hope that people leave just with their heart happy. And I think that's kind of what we set out to do. We really have created a really great community. So just enjoy the day, take home something from a local, vendor. You're helping to support many local businesses by being there that day. So,
Absolutely. What's the most personally rewarding thing for you? I think we've heard you say it several times that it's all about everyone else and not about you. But what about you? What about Whitney?
I, I just, I love, I know I'm going to say it again. I love to see other people do really well. I love watching this whole event kind of like come from nothing and then fill up. So, like when it was at 6th and Durban, my husband and I are out there marking spots, doing all these things. Like we wake up to an empty street and then watching this entire thing like get put together. And we have vendors that literally within 4 hours have created this event. And then as people would really start to trickle in, and like, so just taking time to stop in the middle of it to really just like pay attention to what's going around and getting to like see everyone kind of just fill in when you think, gosh, I sure hope people show up. I hope people show up. And then pretty soon the
Right.
streets are full, and watching that, like that feels so good. And so for me, I think what's going to be really cool this year is being able to actually like step up onto the overlook and really take that moment to just see everybody kind of fill in. Um, I'm excited for the growth down there. I think it was scary in the beginning because we do have like all the trees, and like we've got this really great neighborhood who's always been very welcoming for this event. So, I think anytime you move an event, there's that worry that like, gosh, is it the right thing? Are we doing all of these great things? So I think when I can step up on that overlook and just see everybody there, I think that's the
That'd
best
be
part.
awesome.
It just makes my heart feel good.
Make sure you take some selfies.
Okay, selfies, lots of selfies.
So
Yeah, you'll find me at the Vita bus. I'll just hang out there all day.
cool. Do you have any advice for Wyopreneurs? It's a new word I just made up. Someone else probably used it, but entrepreneurs in Wyoming that want to do something unique with our culture, unique in the event space. Because you've taken something from scratch and it's lasted 10 years, which is a huge milestone. Unfortunately, not a lot of businesses make it 10 years because there's that 5-year milestone and then there's a 10-year. And we got some really strong businesses in town, like Amber over at Backwards. It's their 10th year anniversary as well, which is awesome.
Mhm.
But do you have any advice for people to get into this, like in the event space, cultural space, things like that, specific to what you've done?
Yeah, I think you just really have to listen to your gut too on these things. This was, I started making jewelry just for fun, and it became this idea that luckily I had a family that kind of helped support and said, you need to go do this. And I think that we opened the store, we closed the store. I'm so glad I did it. I have no regrets on doing it, but I know I would have had regrets if we didn't do it. There would have always been the what ifs,
That's good.
what could have happened. So if you've got the idea and it just won't go away, like do something with it.
Hmm.
And you can start small. It doesn't have to be a huge, big thing. Although some people that do that do it really well. They come out like guns blaring and they just get it. Like, I mean, I know that when Backwards did build their company, and there was a lot of thought and processing into what they were going to do, but when they did it, they just did it all right
Hmm.
and really well. So I think take the time, put it together, but don't be afraid to take the leap. I think that if you don't, you're always going to wonder what could have happened. And you know what, if the idea happens and you bring it to life and it doesn't do what you think, I mean, it's always okay to change course too. Like my business didn't start with that intent to have this event that is now gotten to be as big as it is. And so I think just like kind of, I mean, being flexible and going with the ebb and flow. We survived like in 2017, life came back to life here in Casper, but I opened in 2014, and then a year later, like our economy took a big hit, and you just pivot, I
Yeah.
guess in the words of Ross, you just pivot. And you kind of find what's going to work next. I
Mhm.
think closing the store was the best decision I probably could have made at that time. And it was scary, and I didn't know if I wanted to do that.
Yeah.
Opening my own shop in the beginning was scary, and I didn't know what was going to happen. So just don't be afraid to like follow your heart and take that leap, because what's the worst that's going to happen? I
For
mean,
sure. That's great
if it
advice.
fails, you try it again, or you
Right.
do it differently. So
That's really good advice because not everything is smooth and perfect. And when you look at other businesses, and I think that you're right. Backwards, they did it right out of the gate, and they have been doing it right for 10 years. I don't think that Amber would probably say the same thing because it's about perspective.
right.
Um,
Yeah, on the outside, it looks like, yeah,
Right.
I mean, but there's so much that goes on behind closed doors, and there's a lot of heartaches that go and having your own business. I don't think you ever think you're going to work as much as you do.
right.
And you're kind of always thinking about it. Like, and I think if that's just something that's on your brain all the time, I
Mhm.
mean, I know I think about these things all the time. I mean, I dream about it in the middle of the night, wake up at 2 a.m. I'm making my notes, and now it's not just about Funky Junk itself, but now it's about David Street Station and all the other things that we're trying to build and grow there, and
Right.
how we can, can continue to do that there and have that growth. So
That's great.
gotta be
That's great.
passionate.
So what does the next 10 years look like? What's your big audacious goal for the Funky Junk?
I would love to, well, number one, find some really lovely humans who love music as much as I do that want to help support that, because I think what would be really cool is to have a second stage. Um, Bohemian Nights in Fort Collins is a wonderful, very cool weekend full of music. They usually have like 100, I want to say like in the past have been like 100 artists come perform, most from around the Colorado area, and sometimes some that were a little bit bigger. So I would love for music to take a little bit more of that spotlight. And if we can offer a couple of different stages worth of music, and I could see it continuing to grow towards downtown. And that way it would help also then get people down to support, a lot of other businesses that are down there, that we've got some really great little gems down there. So if we could add a second stage, and I mean, I probably would have to double my vendors, which kind of freaks me out. But I think just growing and kind of bursting out of the seams down there a little bit too, and really getting people to come down. But I think adding a second stage and adding some extra music is like, I mean, if I could do that in the next 10 years and bring some of my favorite bands here,
That'd be cool.
that'd be really cool.
That would be definitely an event. So we'll take more of a music focus in addition to
Yeah.
increased vendors.
Yeah.
So is it the same weekend every year?
Yes, it's always the third Saturday of May and September. We've stuck true to that since the very beginning, which I think has been like I said, I think we picked kind of a sweet spot. Like it's just like when people are ready to get outside and enjoy winter being over as much as we can and get out of hibernation and come out. It's always like a great social experience for people that have kind of been doing that. It's like the first time a lot of people see each other again after staying inside all winter, doing other things. But, and then I think that one in the end of September is really just kind of caps off just the end of the season. So both of those days are like, I mean, my neighbor's daughter would say it's like Christmas morning, especially when she'd wake up and it was happening right outside.
Right.
It's definitely my two favorite days of the year.
That's cool. So it's the third weekend of May?
Yep.
And what about September?
Yep, always the third. So it will
Third.
be September 20th will be our fall event. And then we've already got some great music lined up for that.
Cool.
Really excited where that's gonna go.
Do you have a website for like applications, vendor applications, or are you still paper and?
I'm not quite as old school as paper and pen, but I have a waiting list that people can join from time to time, just by emailing funkyjunkdistrict@gmail.com.
Okay.
I just have a Google form that I send out. I do always give our returning vendors kind of a first opportunity to be back, and that's hard because even my returning vendor list is bigger than the spaces that I have. So it's just trying to make sure we keep good quality, a variety in those pieces. So it's still kind of a curated process. So if people think they're a good fit, they can always get a hold of me and send me some pictures of what they do and give me a little story about who they are and what their business is. And I found some really great people that way. I have a guy that wanted to apply for next week just a couple days ago, and I'm like, well, I'm full and have been for a bit, but tell me a little bit more about what you do. And he makes some really cool rope baskets out of they're just, I don't know, they were really cool and unique. And he's a retired gentleman that's just, got this hobby that he's continuing with. And so if it's something that's unique and just kind of has a different vibe, that something is not being done already, like that's kind of where we're looking. I think we get to be really picky about who we add because the quality is just really high of what people are bringing. So it's fun.
So there's a waiting list.
Yeah.
Even for September?
Yeah. And I don't even know if we'll open for September with new vendors or not because we added so many. And I know that the credit union across the street from David Street Station is closed this summer for remodel, which was it's kind of a big win for us because we can actually gain a little bit more of West Yellowstone Street with that closure because we normally have to leave their overnight drive-through open. So I added vendors to this one, and I'm not sure if I'll get to keep as many in September. So might be a little tighter on that.
Right. Well, this has been really enlightening, and I'm sure a lot of people will be getting ready for this event in 8 days.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us, Whitney. Thank you for sharing your journey. There's a lot of people that are interested in these journeys, especially with Wyoming people. So thank you.
Appreciate it very much. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.